Hey everyone! Welcome back to CodeDesign Academy, and in this video, I'll be showing you how to create a pop-up element. In this pop-up, you'll be able to click on a button to display it on the same page, and then click the close button to hide it. And to keep things simple, I'll be using elements from the Design tab. So let's get started. First, I'm going to drop this particular hero element to the canvas. There we go. Now this is the button that we'll be using to trigger the pop-up. I'll rename it to something like Join Queue. There we go. Now that we have the button, let's create the pop-up element. To do that, I'll head back to the Design tab and drag a form element onto the page. Here's the form element I'm dropping in. Ensure that you place this outside the section as a standalone div to make it easier to work on independently. There we go. To make it look nicer, I'll start by changing the background color. Let's pick this color, but you might notice this section can be made a bit better. We can try adding some padding on all sides of the section. So let's go to the layout settings to adjust the padding. Here, I'll set it to 40 pixels. Now, we've got the proper padding. Next, let's round the corners. I'll do that by going into the style settings and adjusting the corner radius to 25 pixels. Now that the form looks good, let's add a close button. To do that, I'll go to the Elements tab, drag in a div, and place it inside the main container. As you can see, we've added the block element. Now, let's return to the Elements tab, grab an icon element, and drop it inside the div we just created. Here it is. When I click on the icon settings appear. I'm going to change this to something more appropriate for a close button. Let's search for a close icon. There it is. I'll select it. Now, it's not positioned correctly yet, but we'll fix that. To fix the position, I'll select the block containing the close button and change its position to absolute. At first, it moves to a strange position, but we'll fix that by adjusting the positioning values. I'll set the left and bottom to auto and the right and top to 30 pixels. There we go. Now we have a properly positioned close button. Next, I'll rename the container to Form Popup, so it's easier to manage. Now, I'll set the button to trigger the pop-up. I'll do this by selecting the button, going to the Functions tab, and choosing the Element is Clicked event. Then, I'll select Update an Element Style. That's done. I'll rename the function to something like Popup on and choose the form pop-up element that we just renamed. We are selecting that element, and now I'm adding a property. So here in the property, we will have to select the display property here and set the value to flex. And finally, I'll press the update button to save the changes. Now let's set up the close button to hide the pop-up when clicked. I'll select the icons block div instead of selecting just the icon element. This will help to add a bit more clickable area around the close icon, helping with accessibility. Then I'll go back to the Functions tab, and for This Element is Clicked, I'll select Update an Element Style. I'll rename this function to Popup Off. Next, I'll select the form pop-up element again and add the display property, setting its value to none. So when the close button is clicked, the pop-up will disappear. And finally, I'll press the update button to save the changes. That's how this will work. Let's publish it and give it a try. As you can see, the pop-up opens when I click the button, and I can close it by clicking the close button. One last thing we need to do. Let's make sure the pop-up is hidden by default when the page loads. Back in the builder, I'll set the container's position to fixed so it stays in place on the page. To make it look a bit cooler, I'll add a border. I'll go to the style settings, choose a white border, and there we go. A nice clean border for the pop-up element. Next, let's add an animation. I'll select the form pop-up and go to the animation settings. I'll choose the zoom out animation for when the pop-up appears. Now let's finalize it. I'll set the pop-up container's display property to none by default, so it doesn't show up when the page is loaded. And that's it. Let's publish and see how it works. As you can see, the pop-up is hidden by default. When the button is clicked, the pop-up appears, and clicking the close button hides it again, and that's how you create a pop-up element in CodeDesign. I hope this video has been helpful. If you have any further questions, feel free to let us know through comments, support chats, or the CodeDesign forum.